Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Spill channel. Let's begin. My father raised my mother, and my husband said. But he didn't know that my father taught me to strike first. One move, and he was on the floor. If these stories matter to you, please subscribe. Your support means more to me than you can imagine. It's my motivation. It's the reason I keep telling these stories. And write in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's begin. Daniel turned off the engine but didn't get out of the car. He just sat there, gripping the steering wheel with both hands, staring straight ahead at the dull fence of the neighboring house, at the street lamp swaying in the autumn wind. Emily didn't move either. She knew how to wait. Patience isn't weakness, it's a tool. Her father taught her that when she was 10, when she cried over a broken bicycle. The one who stays silent hears more. He told her back then. And he was right. That evening at Daniel's parents' house, she learned more about her husband than in 3 years of marriage. Did you do that on purpose? Daniel's voice was quiet. That was worse than shouting. Did you deliberately humiliate my mother in front of everyone? Emily slowly turned her head toward him. I refuse to wear someone else's slippers. Is that what you call humiliation? My mother offered them out of respect. That's how it's done. Where exactly is it done, Daniel? She asked it evenly. Among people who think a guest must obey the hostess? Or among those who simply don't know any other way? He got out of the car and slammed the door. Emily followed, unhurried. She wasn't going to run away or chase him. Inside, he threw his jacket past the hanger. It fell. He didn't pick it up. Did you wash the dishes after the guests? He asked. No. I'm a guest. Not all might. This is my mother's house. Harold's. Emily put the kettle on. But not mine. Daniel, I'm not obligated to act like a servant just to impress your mother. He looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. Do you know what my mother said after you left the room? He asked. Emily silently took out 2 mugs. She said, your wife behaves like a guest at her own wedding. A spoiled girl. And you know what? She's right. The kettle clicked. Emily poured the boiling water, dropped in the tea bag, and waited for the color to change. Daniel, she said calmly, your mother is an adult with her own beliefs. I don't judge her, but I'm not obligated to share them. She's a real woman, he snapped. She kept a home her whole life, raised children, never acted superior. That's her choice. I respect it, Emily said. But my choice is different, and it has just as much right to exist. What are you? A feminist? I'm a person, she replied, with my own views and my own boundaries. Daniel stepped closer, not threatening yet, but irritated. Listen, tomorrow you go to my mother and apologize properly. Or, he hesitated, or I'll handle your upbringing myself. The way my father handled my mother. The room went quiet. Emily slowly set her cup down. Daniel, she said calmly, are you sure you want to play teacher? It wasn't a threat. Just a question. But something in her tone made him pause. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to say. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Not out of fierce thinking. She lay on her side of the bed, listening to Daniel breathing behind her, thinking about how little people actually change and how much they repeat. She remembered the smell of the gym, sweat, leather, rubber. She was 10, standing in a too large GI, looking at her father with one clear message, I don't want this. Michael crouched in front of her, not tall, but steady, the kind of man who takes up more space than he physically needs. Are you scared? He asked. No, she lied. You are, he said calmly. And that's normal. Fear isn't the enemy. The enemy is letting fear think for you. That evening, the coach paired her with a boy. Bigger, stronger, confident. He smirked. Emily remembered that smirk. 20 minutes later, he was sitting on the mat, staring at her in disbelief. Don't fight force with force, the coach said. That's a dead end. Use your opponent's strength against them. Something inside her aligned that day. Posture. On the way home, her father said, Remember this? A man isn't made by his fist. He's made by his honor. And if there's no honor, don't wait. Strike first. Morning time. Daniel was already awake, speaking quietly on the phone in the kitchen. Emily didn't get up. She listened. No, she just doesn't get it. I explain, and she looks right through me. Yeah, no. You're right. Yeah. Dad used to do that. Silence. I understand. Emily closed her eyes. His mother, Susan, a small woman, always in an apron, who believed patience was virtue and obedience was love. She raised her son to believe one thing: a real wife doesn't argue. Daniel entered the room without warning and turned on the light. Are you sleeping? I'm thinking. About what? About how habits are formed, she replied, and how people repeat what they saw growing up, even if it hurts others. He said nothing. He opened the closet, took out his belt. Heavy, dark leather. He didn't do anything. He just held IT. And that said everything. The next evening, Daniel came home early. Not rushed, deliberate. Like a man who made a decision. Emily sat at her desk, sorting fabric samples for restoration work. I need to talk, he said. I'm listening. You need to go apologize to my mother. Healthy relationships don't require one person to humiliate themselves. She replied, You are wrong. In what exactly? In disrespect. In acting like you're better than everyone. I don't think I'm better, she said. I think I'm equal. He snapped. Enough. No more partnership. There will be rules. What rules? He didn't answer. He slowly pulled the belt out. Silence. Emily looked at him for a few seconds. Then she stood up, calm, centered. Daniel, she said quietly, this is your last mistake in this house. No threat. No fact. He stepped forward. He swung. What happened next took less than a second. She stepped toward him, not back. Her hand locked onto his wrist with precision built over 15 years. A pivot. A shift of weight. His strength became hers. And suddenly, he was on the floor. The belt flew aside. Emily held his wrist in a controlled lock. No rage. No panic. Just precision. Don't, she said calmly. He tried to move. Pain shot through his arm. You're a woman, he said, confused. Emily leaned closer. I'm a person, she said quietly. The one you promised to love and protect. Remember? Bowser. And right now, you're just an aggressor on my mat. She released him, stepped back. What now? He asked quietly. Now you decide. She replied. She packed her things. I will not live with someone who thinks violence is a form of education. She left. Now, Tias. Just air. Freedom. Her parents' house stood outside the city. She rang the doorbell. Her father opened the door. Michael stood in the doorway, in-house pants and an old sweater, holding a mug of tea. He looked at his daughter, at the bag by her feet, then back at her, and didn't ask anything. He simply stepped aside to let her in, then hugged her. Tightly. The way people hug not when everything is fine, but when words aren't needed. Emily pressed her face into his shoulder. She didn't cry. She just stood there. 30 seconds, no more. Then she exhaled and stepped back. Is Mom awake? She asked. In the kitchen, he replied. Let's go. Her mother, Nina, stood up from the table when Emily entered. She looked at her for a long moment, then placed a cup in front of her and silently poured tea. The three of them sat together for a long time in silence. Not awkward silence. The kind only people who have lived together for years can share. The kind where silence itself is a conversation. Then Emily spoke. Not everything. Just the main points. No details. Oh. Like reporting facts, the slippers, the dishes, the ultimatum, the belt. What happened after? Nina listened with her hands folded on the table. Her face was serious. Not frightened. Not pitying. Serious? Michael listened silently. Only the muscles in his jaw tightened slightly. Once. Then again. Then relaxed. He knew how to control himself. But Emily recognized the sign. You are not wrong for being difficult, her mother said when Emily finished. I know, Emily replied. No, Nina shook her head. You say you know? But before, you sometimes doubted. So it. Emily was silent for a moment, then nodded. Yes, I doubted. I thought. Maybe I'm too harsh. Too inconvenient. Too demanding. And now I don't. Her mother looked at her for a long time, then said quietly, as if admitting something she had kept inside for years. I was always afraid you would grow up rough. That your father raised you too strong. That life with you would be difficult. Pause. But now, I saw, you grew up free. And that's better than I expected. Michael said nothing. He just sat and listened, as always. A little more time passed. Emily was holding the cup with both hands, looking out the window into the darkness, when something inside her shifted, barely noticeable. Not a thought. A feeling. Like a step before crossing a threshold. And then, a sharp sound outside. Gravel under car wheels. Her father lifted his head. Her mother stood up, walked to the window carefully, so it wouldn't be obvious she was looking. It's his car, she said. Emily didn't move. I knew he would come. Michael placed his cup on the table, stood up, and put on the jacket, hanging by the door, slowly, the way people dress when something is expected. He stepped outside onto the porch. Emily heard the gravel crunch under Daniel's steps. Heard him stop. Oh, pause. Then Michael's voice bar calm, almost every day. Good evening, Daniel. I'm here for Emily, Daniel replied. His voice carried a mix of confusion and an attempt to sound firm. I see. Pause. That's a long drive. Michael, this is a family matter. Exactly. Her father agreed. Silence outside. You wanted to teach my daughter? Michael asked. Just as calmly. Not a threat, more like a clarification. Daniel looked at him. Michael stood on the porch, not tall, broad-shouldered, completely calm. Nothing about him was threatening. Not his posture, not his tone. Just a man who stepped outside and asked a question. And that was more unsettling than any threat. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Michael, I understand she told you something, but there are two sides. Emily, she's not easy to deal with. Wie ist? Michael interrupted. Not rudely. More with genuine curiosity. Well, I mean, in a normal family there is order. Then you should learn to talk better, Michael said simply. Daniel stumbled again. She doesn't listen. He tried. My mother always said there should be one voice in the family. Your mother, Michael interrupted, was speaking about her family. Not about my daughter. Pause. Daniel glanced toward the window, as if expecting someone to come out on his side. No, Vandit. I'm not a tyrant, he said. And there was something almost pleading in his voice. I just wanted order in the house. Respect. Is that wrong? Respect, Michael said, cannot be achieved with a belt. It is earned differently. A long silence followed. Then the door opened, and Emily stepped onto the porch. She didn't rush. She simply stood beside her father and looked at Daniel. He looked at her and something in his face changed. Something disappeared. Maybe the last hope that she would come out frightened. Quiet, ready to reconcile on his terms. She looked at him without fear. Without anger. With something else. Daniel didn't immediately find the word for it. Then he did. Pity. Not insulting. Not condescending. Real. The way you look at someone you don't envy. In her hands was his belt. She had taken it from the dresser before coming out. Not out of anger, simply because someone else's property should be returned to its owner. Daniel didn't understand at first. He just stared. Emily stepped closer to the porch steps and held the belt out to him. Calmly. The way you return something that isn't yours. Take it, Daniel. He didn't take it immediately. Just looked at it. You'll need it more, she added, to hold up your pants. Since your honor can't. He took the belt, stayed silent for a long time, then said quietly, almost to himself, You never loved me. I did, she replied. That's why it hurts. Daniel stood there for a few more seconds, then turned and walked to his car. Michael watched him go. Not with triumph. Just watched. Emily stood beside him. The car turned around on the narrow road, slowly, awkwardly, and drove away. The red lights disappeared into the darkness. Let's go inside, Michael said. Emily nodded. They went in. Her mother had already put a pot on the stove. Something warm, familiar, with a smell Emily remembered from childhood. They sat at the table. Nina silently served the food. Michael picked up his spoon, then looked at his daughter. How are you? I don't know yet, she answered honestly. I'll ask myself in the morning. He nodded. That was the right answer. They ate in silence, and somewhere on the highway, Daniel was driving back alone, with the belt on the passenger seat. And for the first time in many years, he wasn't thinking about how to put everything back in place. He was thinking about what he had lost. Not a disobedient, difficult wife who always does what she wants. He lost a living person. A person with her own story. With 15 years of training he never knew about. With thoughts she had while he talked about himself. He lost someone who loved him. And only now, on the empty night road, it became something more than just words. 3 months passed. The divorce was finalized. Emily's workshop was located in a small space. A former warehouse she had rented 6 months earlier with a thought. Someday. That someday had arrived. She set it up quickly. A work table by the window. Shelves with tools. Samples of fabric and wood hanging on the walls like paintings. The smell of varnish, wood, and a little bit of coffee from a small machine she placed in the corner on the very first day. There weren't many clients, but they were there. Restoration requires trust. People bring something that cannot be replaced and leave it in someone else's hands. Emily understood that. She worked slowly, carefully. She spoke to each object, like explaining what was about to happen before doing anything. On Friday evenings, women came to the workshop. Different ages. Different stories. Emily didn't ask questions. She showed. Here's your stance. Here's your balance. Here's how the body works when it knows what it's doing. It wasn't just self-defense. It was something else. A reminder that the body has memory and strength, even when people forget. They came back every Friday. She filed for divorce 3 weeks after that night. The lawyer was efficient and brief. Daniel didn't object. At first, he tried to arrange a meeting. Then he stopped. People said he was living with his mother. Emily didn't check. Didn't need to. One day, a mutual acquaintance mentioned it casually. Daniel moved back in with Susan. Emily nodded and changed the subject. That evening, she thought about him. Not with anger. With a strange calm. The kind that comes when you understand. The kind that comes when you understand. This person won't change. Because he doesn't want to. Because it's easier for him to believe the world is wrong, and he is the standard. Susan would tell him how to fold socks. He would listen. Get irritated. And listen again. That cycle closed without Emily. On Saturday, she was walking through the park with a heavy box. Books on furniture restoration and craftsmanship history. The box was awkward. Sharp edges. Weak bottom. Sorry, she stopped. A man about her age, in a light coat, looked at her apologetically. He had just bumped a shoulder while turning on the path. It's okay, she said. Are you sure? I bumped into you. He looked at the box. Let me help. That looks uncomfortable. Emily looked at him. He didn't insist. He simply offered. And wait. No entitlement. No assumption. Just a question. She smiled. Thank you. I can manage. Got it. He smiled back. No, aunt. No pressure. Careful on the turn. The tiles are slippery. Thanks. He went his way. Emily watched him for a second, then continued walking. The box was heavy. The tiles really were slippery. She walked slowly, holding the box with both hands, thinking about how strange it was. That such a small act of politeness from a stranger felt like a breath of fresh air. Not because she expected it, but because he asked, and accepted her answer. At the park exit, she set the box down on a bench, adjusted her grip, and kept walking. The sky above the city was light grey. Not gloomy, just early spring. Winter had already left, but warmth hadn't fully arrived yet. Emily walked and thought about Friday, about a new student who came for the first time and was afraid she wouldn't succeed. Emily told her what her father once told her. You will. You just have to begin. She walked. And that was enough. No one can raise you. Accept yourself.